The night was thick with mist curling like ghostly fingers around the iron gates of the abandoned mansion. Ronan Violin stepped through them without hesitation. The wind whispered warnings, but he ignored them. He had fought through battles drenched in blood, hunted under crimson moons, and stood against creatures that feared his name. A mansion would not break him. Yet, as he crossed the threshold, something stirred. The air inside was heavy, thick with age, secrets, and something darker. A presence. The grand hall stretched before him, its chandeliers unlit, their crystal chains swaying in the unseen current. The fire in the hearth lay dead, yet a scent lingered in the air, something sweet, intoxicating, forbidden. His sharp senses caught it instantly. It was not dust or decay. It was her. A slow, deliberate sound, footsteps. Ronan's golden eyes flicked upward. At the top of the marble staircase stood a woman bathed in the pale glow of the moon. She did not belong to this world, yet she commanded it. Silver hair cascaded over her shoulders, her skin luminous as if kissed by starlight. She wore darkness like a second skin, a flowing gown clinging to her every graceful movement. But it was her eyes that snared him, deep, ancient, red as the blood she craved. "You've trespassed in my home, wolf." Her voice was a whisper wrapped in silk, dangerous and alluring. Ronan smirked, his fangs flashing. "Your home?" His voice was deep, rough, unshaken. "I own this place now." Her lips curved into something that was not quite a smile. "Do you?" A flicker of movement, too fast, too smooth. In an instant, she stood before him, inches away. A lesser man would have flinched, but Ronan was not a lesser man. He met her gaze, unwavering, even as the scent of her bloodless body sent something primal stirring inside him. She tilted her head, watching him with quiet amusement. "Strange," she murmured. "A beast like you should be snarling, should be fighting. But you don't." He took a step closer, forcing her to tilt her chin up. The height difference was striking, his form towering, built for war. Hers, slender, ethereal, yet holding a power that whispered of death. They were opposites, fire and ice, flesh and shadow. "You expected me to be afraid?" he asked, his voice like distant thunder. Her eyes flickered with something unreadable. "No, I expected you to run." Ronan exhaled a short, amused breath. His hand brushed against the cool stone pillar beside him, claws just barely extending. His body knew what she was capable of. But instead of fear, something deeper clawed at his chest. Hunger. Not for her blood, not for the battle that their kind was destined to wage against one another. For her. She moved like moonlight slipping through cracks, circling him as if he were prey, her presence gliding against his senses. "You smell of war, wolf, of blood and dirt, of something untamed." "And you," he murmured, his gaze raking over her, "smell like sin." A sharp breath escaped her lips, not a gasp, not quite laughter. "You don't belong here," she said softly, though her voice lacked conviction. "Neither do you," he returned. Silence thickened between them, charged, unspoken. She reached out, the back of her fingers barely grazing his jaw, a feather-like touch, cold against the heat of his skin. His pulse thrummed, though he gave no sign of weakness. "You're trapped here now," she whispered. His fingers caught her wrist, firm, unrelenting. A challenge sparked between them. "Then I hope you're ready," Roman said, voice low, dangerous. "Because so are you." And for the first time in centuries, Celine felt something other than hunger. She felt alive. The fire crackled in the vast, hollow expanse of the mansion's great hall. Shadows stretched long across the marble floor, twisting like silent phantoms. Roman Violin leaned against the ancient wooden table, arms crossed, golden eyes fixed on the woman before him. Celine Duskborn stood poised at the far end of the room, her presence unsettlingly calm. The dim light painted her skin in silver and shadow, her crimson eyes unreadable. She did not blink, did not breathe. She was still as death itself. Yet she was the most alive thing he had ever seen. "You're a fool, wolf," she murmured, gliding closer, her midnight gown whispering against the floor. "Do you even understand what you've done?" Ronan exhaled, slow and controlled. "I bought an abandoned mansion. What of it?" Her lips curved, but it wasn't amusement. It was something darker. This place was never abandoned. You didn't just buy walls and stone. You inherited something else. She moved again, circling him like a predator measuring his prey. But Roman did not turn. He did not flinch. He let her come close, so close he could catch the faint scent of night roses clinging to her. It was deceptive, that scent. A trap, much like her. She reached for the ornate candelabra beside him, trailing a single fingertip over the cold brass. This mansion is bound by an ancient covenant. The moment you claimed it, you sealed your fate. Ronan smirked, his fangs glinting in the firelight. Fate doesn't bind me, vampire. I take what I want. I leave when I want. Celine turned then, meeting his gaze with slow, deliberate intensity. Not this time. The air between them grew heavy. Something unseen crackled in the silence, an invisible force tightening its grip. The mansion itself seemed to breathe, whispering in the stillness. You can't leave, she said. And for the first time, there was something in her voice that almost resembled pity. And neither can we. Ronan's muscles tensed. He didn't believe in curses. He believed in blood, in strength, in the things he could tear apart with his own hands. And yet something in Celine's voice made him pause. We, he echoed. A door creaked open somewhere above them. A presence stirred, several in fact. The air thickened with something ancient, something hungry. Celine took another step forward, and this time she was near enough that he could see the faint pulse of light against her throat, the illusion of life that did not belong to her. You are now master of this house, she murmured, tilting her head slightly, watching him as if he were a puzzle she couldn't quite solve. And that means you belong to it as much as we do. Ronan didn't move, didn't speak. But the moment stretched too long, too charged, and he felt something shift. Celine lifted a single delicate hand and touched the collar of his shirt, barely grazing the rough fabric before retreating. It wasn't a touch meant to seduce. It was a warning, a test. And yet his skin burned where she had been. You should have never come here, she whispered. Now you can never leave. Ronan's jaw tightened. The beast inside him stirred, restless, dangerous. He had spent his life bending fate to his will, not the other way around. He reached out without thinking. His fingers caught her wrist, holding her in place. Cold skin against heat. A sharp intake of breath. She didn't pull away. Neither did he. The mansion groaned, its walls creaking, as if the very house itself was aware of the battle already beginning between them. And something told Roman this was only the beginning. The night outside was a restless thing. Wind howled through the skeletal trees, rattling against the mansion's towering windows. Inside, the air was thick, charged with something neither of them wanted to name. Ronan stood near the flickering fire, his broad frame casting long shadows against the stone walls. His golden eyes burned as he watched Celine, who lounged against the grand piano like a vision sculpted from moonlight. She was playing with fate. He could see it in the way she barely touched the keys, her fingers ghosting over ivory, never pressing down. A song waiting to be played, a war waiting to begin. You're watching me, Wolf, she murmured, not looking up. I'm making sure you don't sink those fangs into my throat. At that, she finally lifted her gaze, red eyes gleaming. If I wanted to, you'd never see it coming. A smirk tugged at his lips, sharp and knowing. Try it. For a moment, silence stretched between them, thick and electric. Then she rose, slow and deliberate. Every movement was liquid grace, calculated yet effortless. She was dangerous, yes, but more than that, she was tempting in a way that sent heat rolling through his veins. She circled him like a shadow cast by candlelight. You're not afraid of me. Roman exhaled, controlled, though the beast inside him paced beneath his skin. I don't fear things that can't kill me. Celine tilted her head, a ghost of amusement in her expression. Who said I couldn't? She was close now, too close. The scent of her wrapped around him, something cold and sweet, laced with the metallic edge of what she was. His instincts screamed at him, to fight, to run, to claim. He did none of those things. Instead, he lifted his hand, slowly, deliberately, and traced the edge of her jaw with the back of his fingers. Her skin was ice beneath his warmth, a contrast so sharp it sent a shiver down his spine. She didn't flinch, didn't retreat. But he heard her breath hitch. Strange, she murmured, voice softer now, edged with something unfamiliar. You're not like the others. He let his hand drop, flexing his fingers as if she had burned him instead of the other way around. You've met wolves before. She gave a slow nod, but her gaze never left his. None like you. A sharp sound cut through the tension. A crash from the corridor beyond. The spell shattered. Celine turned first, her eyes narrowing, posture shifting from languid grace to something alert. Ronan was already moving. He reached the doors before she did, yanking them open to reveal the corridor beyond. The candlelight flickered, the walls seemed to shift, and the air carried a scent he knew too well. Blood. Celine was at his side in an instant, a blur of midnight silk and pale skin. Her expression was unreadable, but he caught the slight tension in her jaw. They'd come for us, she murmured. Ronan's claws extended, his pulse steady, but his hunger, his need for battle, for blood, for something far more dangerous, was rising. Let them. She turned to him then, truly looking at him, as if seeing something she had tried to ignore, and for the first time, Celine did not see a beast to be feared. She saw a man who was ready to burn the world for her. The candle flames trembled, their golden glow barely pushing back the darkness curling at the edges of the grand corridor. Ronan stood at the threshold, his breath steady, muscles taut, golden eyes gleaming with the thrill of the hunt. He knew this scent, blood, old and tainted, but it was not Celine's. Celine moved beside him, her presence a whisper of silk and shadow. Though she barely made a sound, Ronan felt her, like the hush before a storm, like the cold that seeped into bones before the first snowfall. They are coming, she murmured. He flexed his hands, his claws extending, his body thrumming with raw, primal power. Let them. A sound split the silence, a low, guttural growl, inhuman, starved. A shadow slithered across the far wall, moving too fast, too unnatural. Then another. Celine stepped forward, the dim candlelight catching the silver strands of her hair, her blood-red eyes narrowing. Strays, she said with quiet disdain. Ronan arched a brow. They smell like corpses. They were corpses, she replied, once. A creature lunged from the darkness, its body twisted and unnatural, its flesh stretched too tight over its bones. Its eyes burned with an eerie, sickly glow, neither human nor vampire. A ghoul. Ronan moved before it could take another breath. With a snarl, he caught it midair, his claws tearing into its decayed flesh. The beast screeched, writhing in his grip, but it was already too late. With a savage twist, Ronan crushed his throat, letting the lifeless body drop to the floor. Celine watched him with something unreadable in her gaze. Another ghoul burst forward. This time she moved. A blur of darkness, faster than any human eye could track. One moment she was beside him. The next, she was behind the creature, her hand gripping its head. With a sharp crack, she snapped its neck, its body crumbling into dust before it even hit the ground. Silence. Ronan turned to her. Not bad. She met his gaze unruffled, likewise. But the night wasn't finished. A slow, deliberate clapping echoed down the corridor. Ronan shifted, his senses sharpening. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall, elegant, exuding power. He moved with the confidence of one who had lived too long and feared nothing. His suit was pristine, but his smile was cruel. Impressive, the stranger mused, his voice smooth as velvet. It's been some time since I've seen a werewolf and a vampire fight side by side. Celine stiffened beside him. Ronan rolled his shoulders, cracking his neck. You've been watching us. The man tilted his head, his gaze flickering toward Celine. You didn't tell him, did you? Ronan's jaw tightened. His eyes snapped to her, but she didn't move. The stranger chuckled, his fangs glinting in the dim light. Ah, so the beast doesn't know what he's truly caught in. Ronan's patience burned away. In a blink, he crossed the space between them, grabbing the vampire by the throat and slamming him into the stone wall. The impact sent cracks, spider webbing across the surface. The stranger didn't flinch. Instead, he smiled. Oh, you are delightful. Ronan's grip tightened. Who are you? The vampire's smile never wavered. Someone who knows exactly why you're here and why you can never leave. Celine stepped forward, her voice quiet but firm. Let him go, Roman. For a moment, he considered ignoring her. His instincts screamed to tear this creature apart, to end whatever game he thought he was playing. But something in Celine's tone gave him pause. With a low growl, he released the vampire, stepping back. The stranger straightened his collar, unbothered. Ah, now we can talk properly. He met Ronan's gaze, and his red eyes gleamed with amusement. Welcome to the hunt. Ronan's fists remained clenched long after he let the stranger go. His body still hummed with the need to rip something apart, but Celine's presence beside him was an anchor, a cold, intoxicating force he couldn't ignore. The vampire dusted off his collar, eyes gleaming with amusement. You truly don't know, do you? Ronan's voice was a low growl. Enough riddles, speak. Celine stepped forward, her gaze sharp. What do you want, Lucian? Lucian smiled as if the question entertained him. I want what has always belonged to me. His eyes flickered toward Celine, dark and possessive. Ronan didn't think. He moved. In an instant, he was in front of Celine, his towering frame blocking her from view, his claws extended. She's not yours. Lucian chuckled, unfazed. That's where you're wrong, Wolf. You see, she and I have unfinished business. Ronan felt Celine shift behind him, but she didn't push past him. She didn't deny it. He turned his head slightly, his voice lower, controlled. Tell me he's lying. Celine's silence was louder than any answer. Something inside him twisted. He hated it. Hated the way it made him feel off balance. This woman, this vampire, was supposed to be his enemy, his problem, his obsession, perhaps. But not this. Not something deeper. Lucian watched them with knowing amusement. Ah, you didn't tell him. He's shaking his head. I wonder why, Celine. Celine finally spoke, her voice a blade's edge. I owe you nothing. Lucian's smile faded. You owe me everything. Ronan had heard enough. In a blur of motion, he lunged. His hand wrapped around Lucian's throat, slamming him back against the wall once more, harder this time. Your claim means nothing to me. His golden eyes burned. But if you touch her, I'll tear you apart. Lucian's lips curled into something close to delight. Then let the games begin, Wolf. A sharp wind blew through the corridor, carrying whispers of something ancient. The candles flickered wildly, and in the space between one breath and the next, Lucian was gone. Roman exhaled, his body still coiled tight with tension. The mansion felt heavier, the very walls pressing in as if it had witnessed too much. Behind him, Celine finally spoke. You shouldn't have done that. He turned to her, eyes searching hers. Why? You wanted to come back? Her lips parted, but no words came. Instead, she looked at him as if seeing something she didn't want to admit. Ronan stepped closer. Who is he to you? Celine held his gaze, unreadable. The past. Ronan's jaw tightened. And what am I? For the first time, something flickered in her eyes. Hesitation, vulnerability, something dangerous. A mistake. His breath caught, not in anger, but something else. A challenge, a pull. He reached for her before he could stop himself, his fingers brushing against her wrist. It was such a small thing, skin against skin, warmth against cold. But she didn't move away. The air between them grew charged, the world outside forgotten. He could hear her unneeded breath, could feel the slow tension in her body as if she were warring with herself. He leaned in slightly, his voice a husky murmur. Liar. Celine inhaled sharply, her control fracturing for just a second too long. Because Roman saw it, the way her gaze lingered on his lips, the way she clenched her fingers as if resisting the urge to touch him. It wasn't just him. She felt it too. The mansion groaned around them, the storm outside raging stronger, but neither of them moved. Because the real storm was right here. And it was only just beginning. The storm outside lashed against the windows, the wind howling like a restless beast. But inside the mansion, another storm brewed, one far more dangerous. Roman still stood close, too close. Celine could feel the heat of him, raw and untamed. the wild scent of pine and musk clashing against her own cool stillness. He didn't move away, didn't back down. Neither did she. Her pulse, if she had one, would have been erratic. "Say it again," Ronan murmured, voice low, rough. Celine lifted her chin, her crimson eyes locking onto his golden ones. "You're a mistake." He smirked, slow and knowing. Liar. Her jaw tightened, but she couldn't deny the truth. Not when she was standing here. Not when her body betrayed her, drawn to his like a moth to flame. He was all heat, all power, a force she should resist. But she didn't step away. Roman exhaled, tilting his head slightly, studying her. He lifted his hand, slowly, deliberately, until his fingers brushed against the cool skin of her throat. A dangerous place to touch a vampire, but he wasn't afraid. Neither was she. Celine's breath hitched, her body going rigid at the warmth of his touch. Roman's smirk deepened. Not so cold after all. A flicker of something dark passed through her gaze. "You shouldn't touch me like that." "Why?" His voice was pure temptation. "Afraid you'll like it." Celine's fingers twitched at her sides, the instinct to push him away warring with the unbearable pull between them. He was insufferable, infuriating, impossible. But gods, he was intoxicating. She tried for indifference. "I could kill you, Wolf." Ronan leaned in just enough for his breath to ghost over her skin. "Then do it." Her fangs ached. Her hunger, one she hadn't felt in centuries, curled inside her like a living thing. But it wasn't just for his blood. It was for him. Ronan saw it, felt it, and he wasn't afraid. A growl rumbled deep in his chest, the primal, possessive sound vibrating through her bones. His fingers tightened ever so slightly on her throat, just enough to remind her of what he was, what he could do. Celine's lips parted, but no words came. Ronan's gaze darkened. "You want to know what's worse than a mistake, Celine?" His thumb traced the edge of her jaw, his touch burning. "A temptation you can't escape." Her breath stilled. Because he was right. The moment shattered when the doors to the corridor slammed open, a rush of icy wind snuffing out the nearby candles. Celine stepped back instantly, her expression smoothing into cold elegance. Roman, however, remained still, his body thrumming with unspent energy. His golden eyes flickered toward the doorway. Lucian stood there, his smirk cruel, his presence suffocating. "Well, well, how fascinating." Celine's voice was clipped. "What do you want?" Lucian's gaze flicked between them, amusement dancing in his crimson eyes. "Oh, nothing really. Just watching the inevitable unfold." Roman's muscles tensed, his claws itching to tear through the vampire's throat. "You talk too much." Lucian chuckled. "And you, Wolf, are playing a dangerous game." Celine stepped forward, placing herself between them. Her voice was ice. "Leave." Lucian's smile lingered, but his eyes darkened. "You forget who you belong to, Celine." A low, guttural growl ripped through the air. It wasn't hers. Ronan moved before he could think, stepping in front of Celine, his body a wall of pure, unyielding power. "She doesn't belong to you." Lucian's smirk faded. "Then prove it." The storm outside raged, but it was nothing compared to the battle brewing within these walls. And Roman had already decided. He wasn't letting her go. His storm raged on, a furious symphony of wind and rain hammering against the mansion's towering walls. But inside, a far deadlier storm was brewing. Ronan stood in front of Celine, his towering form radiating raw, untamed power. The golden fire in his eyes burned hotter as he met Lucian's unflinching gaze. "You want proof?" Ronan growled, his voice a dark promise. "Then watch closely." Before Lucian could react, Roman turned, his hands gripping Celine's waist, pulling her into him with unshakable certainty. She gasped, more in surprise than protest, as her body met his, her cool skin a striking contrast against the heat of his own. "Ronan." Her voice was sharp, but he silenced her with nothing more than his gaze. His hold on her was firm, possessive, but not forceful. A silent challenge, a declaration. Celine could have resisted, could have pushed him away. She didn't. Instead, she let the tension coil around them, thick and inescapable. His scent surrounded her, earthy, wild, dangerous. He smelled like the forest after a storm, like lightning about to strike. Lucian's laughter cut through the silence, mocking. Ah, wolf. So desperate to claim something that was never yours. Ronan's grip tightened ever so slightly. And yet, here she stands, with me. Celine exhaled slowly, her crimson eyes flickering between the two. Enough. Her voice was smooth, commanding, but there was an unspoken tremor beneath it, a conflict she wasn't ready to name. Lucian's smirk faded. His amusement cooled into something far more menacing. You're making a mistake, Celine. She tilted her head, unfazed. I'll decide that for myself. Lucian's expression darkened. Then you've sealed your fate. A shadow moved, fast, too fast. Lucian blurred toward them, his hand outstretched. But Ronan was faster. With a snarl, he spun, one arm sweeping Celine behind him, the other snapping up to block the vampire's strike. Their hands collided with a force that sent a gust of wind tearing through the corridor, rattling chandeliers and extinguishing candles. Lucian's smirk returned, sharp and cruel, impressive. Roman bared his fangs. You've seen nothing yet. Then he struck. His claws lashed out, silvered in moonlight, a blur of primal fury. Lucian dodged, barely, his body twisting with unnatural grace. The two clashed in a violent dance of predator against predator, each strike sending shockwaves through the stone floors. Celine watched, her body taut, her breath shallow. This was madness. This was inevitable. Lucian was deadly, but so was Ronan. And God's help her, she wasn't sure which of them was more dangerous. Ronan's growl tore through the air as he slammed Lucian back against the wall, claws pressing against his throat. Leave, he snarled, voice dripping with finality. Or I end this now. Lucian chuckled, even as blood dripped from the corner of his lips. End it? His crimson eyes gleamed. Celine wouldn't let you. Ronan hesitated for half a second. It was enough. Lucian twisted, slipping from his grasp in a blink. He stepped back, straightening his collar as if none of it had fazed him. This isn't over, Lucian murmured, his gaze flicking to Celine. Not by a long shot. Then, just as suddenly as he had appeared, he vanished into the shadows. Silence fell, thick and charged. Ronan turned, his breathing still heavy, his body still coiled with tension. His eyes met Celine's, and something fierce passed between them. He had fought for her, stood against his own nature, against logic, against reason. And she had led him. Slowly, he stepped toward her again, closing the distance between them. His fingers brushed against hers, a silent question. Celine didn't pull away. The storm raged on outside, but inside, a different kind of storm was brewing. And this one would consume them both. The storm had passed, leaving the air thick with the scent of rain and something darker, something unspoken. The grand mansion stood still, its corridors heavy with silence, except for the slow, measured steps of two predators caught in a battle neither wanted to win. Ronan stalked toward Celine, his golden eyes burning with something untamed, something undeniable. His body was coiled, muscles tight, as if restraining a force too wild to contain. Celine didn't move. She stood in the dim light of the chandelier, her crimson gaze steady, unblinking. She was a vision of night itself, pale as moonlight, dark as the abyss, her beauty as lethal as the blade sheathed within her very being. But even she felt it now, the pull between them, a force neither logic nor bloodlines could sever. Ronan's voice was low, rough. You should have stopped me. Celine tilted her head slightly, a ghost of a smirk gracing her lips. You should have stopped yourself. His jaw clenched. He took another step forward and another, until the space between them had vanished. His warmth was intoxicating, surrounding her like fire licking at the edges of a frozen world. Celine's voice softened, but the warning in it was unmistakable. Ronan. His name on her lips was a brand against his skin. He exhaled sharply, his hands flexing at his sides, aching to touch her, to claim something that wasn't his to take. Or was it? You're dangerous, she murmured, eyes glinting like rubies in the low light. Ronan's smirk was slow, wicked. And you're not? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. His hand lifted, hesitant, but only for a moment. Then his fingers found her jaw, tilting her face up to meet his. Her skin was impossibly cool against his burning touch. A contrast he should hate. Instead, he craved it. Celine's breath hitched, not fear, not hesitation, but something she couldn't name. Roman's thumb traced the sharp line of her cheekbone, his touch rough yet reverent. I should walk away, he murmured. Celine's lips parted, the space between them a breath, a heartbeat. Then why don't you? He laughed softly, darkly. Because you don't want me to. A dangerous truth hung between them. Celine could end this. A single word, a single step, and the fragile thread holding them together would snap. But she didn't move. She let his touch linger, let his presence seep into her, let the tension coil tighter, tighter, until there was no air left between them. Say it, Ronan whispered, his lips just a breath away from hers. Tell me to go. Celine's fingers curled against his chest, the heat of him searing even through his shirt. Her pulse, silent and still, seemed to thunder in her mind. She should say it. She didn't. Instead, she lifted her chin just enough for her lips to brush his. A fleeting touch, the barest whisper of contact, yet it struck like lightning. Ronan's control snapped. A growl rumbled deep in his chest as he crushed her against him, his grip unrelenting, his body a firmness against hers. Celine gasped, fangs aching, the primal hunger roaring inside her, no longer just for blood. This was madness. This was inevitable. His mouth claimed hers, a battle of dominance neither of them wanted to win. Celine responded with equal fire, her fingers tangling in his hair, her coldness melting under the inferno of his touch. The storm outside had passed, but inside, it had only just begun.